Welcome to the Horserail Construction Guide. Before we show you the tips and techniques of how to save yourself time building horse fence, we'd like to answer a few commonly asked questions. One of these is, just how strong is Horserail? You will see from the pictures that even after a serious event that impacts on the fence, it has an amazing ability to bounce back and retain its integrity. In another case, we had a car get out of control and go through one of our fences. It wrote itself off and damaged the fence. But after replacing 2 posts and about 4 meters of rail, the fence was once again full strength and able to do the job that it was originally put there for. It surely answers all the questions on strength and flexibility. These pictures show just how safe our product is too. This filly got its legs caught up in a yard fence and struggled, but came free without losing any fur in the process. One of the most common questions we receive is, will the horses chew our fence? And you can see from this post where they've actually eaten the post nearly through that the rail is virtually undamaged right beside it. And now we'd like to show you a few pictures of how horserail fencing can really add value to your property. It is not just a low maintenance fence, which is both a lot stronger and safer than traditional wood rail fencing, but it can add tremendously to the general image and therefore the capital value of your property. Now let's talk about planning the fence line. This next diagram shows you 3 things that you should be aware of. The top one is the post angle out of the ground should be vertical to the lie of the land. And in the middle diagram you'll see that each post should only take no more than 3 degrees of vertical change. And finally, the top of the fence posts should be nice and smooth to enhance the image. The integrity of horserail very much also depends on the strength of the end structures, and this diagram shows you 4 ways which you can brace or maintain strong end structures. It's a personal preference as to which one you use, but do notice that the stay post is inserted or braced against the post approximately halfway between the ground and the top of the strainer. Now we have a short video showing you how to attach the buckles to the end of the rail.
The buckle, and this is the rear on the post side of the buckle. Take the buckle, put it in the first slot, and have equal distance between this bar and the end of the rail, double checking that it's perfectly square, using your knee as a bench, workbench. Just a matter of bending it over and removing it. Once it's removed, you rotate the buckle, put it on here, take it around, and then squeeze it manually until the sides are parallel. Bring it up, put it in here, and we're nearly complete. Bend it over, lay it on the ground, and you can either place your foot on it, get it set, ready to attach to a fence post, and screw it halfway in, just to there. So there it is to the post, go to the other end and repeat.
Horserail is best laid out rather than dragged out to avoid damage to the rail, and we have a payout box design, an information sheet that allows you to make a very economical little box in which the rolls sit, and you can have more than one roll sitting on top of each other, and then drive along laying the roll out on the ground. But first we have to attach the ends to the first strainer post, and this is what is being done now. When these bolts are inserted into the end post, it's a good idea not to wind them fully in, so that it does allow you to take up, once the second one is in, take up some of the tension on the rail just by winding in the last couple of inches of the bolt. This is a small yard with rounded corners. It's got 2 rails up already, and the next 2 rails are going to be laid out using a small garden tractor or the back of a ute or something like that. Where you've only got a small amount to do, you don't need to build a payout box. You can actually have somebody walk behind and just keeping the roll from dragging off on the ground and helping it spin. It is a good idea to put the roll on a smooth surface like a carpet or a smooth piece of wood. In this case, the brackets have already been put up, attaching them to the posts with only the bottom screw, and then after the rail is laid out, you go along and hook the rail up into the brackets so that there is a minimum of looping or sagging, and that the rail is actually running in a more or less direct line. Quite a few people will actually pull the tension up on the rail before they put the top screw in. This ensures that the rail can slide smoothly in the brackets. Here the top screw on the brackets are being put in with a cordless drill, and it's fast and simple and very secure. We do have stables that are halfway. They are less expensive and suitable where stock or horses are only going to be applying pressure to the rail side of the fence. They're not satisfactory for horses or animals on both sides of the fence. The bracket is much stronger and won't come free. Once the tension has been applied, the top screws are attached. You can see how readily and with a minimal amount of tension, even just laying out, how this horse rail here goes flat with a great deal of ease. Horse rail is not suitable for rapidly rising or hilly land where there is steep vertical change in direction. Horse rail will accept vertical change at about 3 degrees per post, but you certainly can prepare the fence line beforehand using earth moving equipment to make sure that the ground is shaped in a manner that suits the fence. In other words, small knobs can be smoothed off and small gullies can be filled in. In the case of a very hilly property, we would recommend coated wire as a fencing solution rather than horse rail. At the Second end, the rail is pulled up either by hand, occasionally over a long distance it's pulled up using a chain grab on one of the wires, gently measured, cut, the end attaching buckle is fitted, and the end attaching buckle is then bolted to the post at a 45-degree angle. To cut the rail, put a end attaching buckle on it which will act as a square. Use a cutting knife to scribe the plastic web, use a cutting knife to scribe the plastic web, and then cut the two outside wires using wire cutters, as is being done here, and then the inside wire can be snapped by bending it sharply. It's just scribing them further in towards that middle wire. And then it is bent as tight as possible one way. And because it is so high tensile, once it's bent one way and then back the other way, tight, but still only by hand, on the third bend it normally snaps like that. Remember to get these attaching buckles square. In this case, a bending tool is being used which makes the squaring and bending much easier, and is suitable for a contract situation where it's being used regularly. Otherwise the attaching buckle is fine as the bending tool. The second bolt is now being inserted and driven into the post, except for the last, well, it can be driven in now because it's attached at both ends, full distance or an appropriate distance. Those bolts will not pull out, they're at a 45-degree angle. The posts don't spin and don't spin in the ground, and it's a very acceptable and strong attachment method. In this case, a ratchet handle is being used to take up the last piece of tension, or a bit more tension. And now we're going to fit a two-piece split spooler which is commonly used, but the plain spooler, which is a single piece spooler, can be threaded onto the rail. Depends on the circumstances. In this case it's a full square with rounded corners, and one spooler is enough to tension the whole yard. See how he's checking to make sure it's square to the rail before starting to put tension on the spooler. If the spooler starts off square, it can bundle up on one side and not look nearly as attractive as it should. Adjusting the ratchet and using both handles now to wind in some tension, walking it up using the two ratchets, that will slide round those 90-degree corner brackets with great ease. Or we do have inside corner brackets for around arenas and stuff. Once the tension is moderate tension is reached, do not over tighten, just enough until the rail looks flat. Drop a pin in both sides. This is one case where two people is quite handy because it's a little difficult to see the second pin on the back side. Get it pinned in. And once that's done, the ratchet handles are taken off, and you've got a very tidy and yet safe attaching system which stays on the rail. It may be needed in some future years to take up tension. Square to start and then walk it up. All four rails are now being tensioned with spoolers. But Horserail is a relatively do-it-yourself type of operation for any person who's strong enough to be able to handle the bending of the rail. It just requires a contractor or person with a post driver to put the posts in, and after that the actual fitting of the rails to the posts and the tensioning is a relatively do-it-yourself type of job. And now we would like to show you a little bit about our very cost-efficient hot coat and horse coat coated wire fencing. This is a very economical solution, very safe, durable, and a good solution where large areas or hilly country is involved. We're now going to show you how to attach hot coat to the end post. First of all, measure off a length of hot coat tubing that measures the circumference of the end post, and then slide an attaching sleeve onto the end of the hot coat. Then slide the piece of tubing onto the end of the hot coat. And wrap it round the end post. Leave plenty sticking out the end, and then put a double back crimp, a bend in the hot coat, and slide it into the sleeve as is shown, and then slip the whole thing in so it is tight against the post. Once that's done, crimp the hot coat slightly and bring the end up to right angles so that it can be used to connect from one hot coat to the next within the fence. Then you can put a crimp on the end as is being done in order to attach the next piece of hot coat. And now we're going to show you how to use the donut spooler or coated wire tensioner. This is normally placed near the center of the interval between the two end posts, and the wire is cut so as to best insert the spooler. You normally cut it and make sure there is about a 6-inch overlap of the coated wire, and this is done after the coated wire has been clipped up into the insulators on each post. It is done afterwards. There's the 6-inch overlay, and each end of the coated wire is inserted into the central axle on the spooler, and only inserted enough not to go right through, but just to grab the first part of the axle. Then the same ratchet spanners are used to attach and tension the coated wire. As you will have seen from this video, the only real tools you need is a power drill and a wire cutter and 2 of these ratchet handles, which can be obtained from most hardware shops and certainly from Horserail itself. There we go, the pins are dropped in and the tension is on. It will be of interest to some of you about the development of composite or plastic, recycled plastic posts that some companies are developing throughout the world. The reason we are telling you about this is that they do have some advantages. Of course, we're used with our hot coat or hot top rail, as they can be both drilled, sawn and bracketed without the need of insulation. They also have a place where termites are a problem, and we expect their price to continue to fall over the next few years. Finally, we'd like to tell you about a custom-made tie-back that has been developed for the attaching of end structures. It makes the job a whole lot simpler and incorporates the use of the donut tensioner or coated wire strainer. Thank you for watching. We do appreciate your time.